Hey boyos, it's Jake, the Lonercast dude. I make videos about my everyday loner life, but this time, I wasn't really a loner. As you can tell by the title, I went to PAX West. I'm going to tell you all about what I saw and what I thought about what I saw. Don't worry, it might take a minute, but I'll talk about the big boys near the end. So buckle up, this may take a minute. It all started with me flying to Seattle from my home state of Arizona. Everything went surprisingly well. No screaming kids or troubles with my flight. None in the slightest, actually. I actually even ran into a few dudes who were headed to PAX on my flight. So that was pretty awesome. So on the flight, I began playing SteamWorld Dig 2. I've played the first one, and the first one was great. It was a great title, but it left a lot to be desired. But the second took everything from the first and expanded upon it. They got rid of what seemed like procedurally generated dig spaces from the first and created a well-crafted and constructed underground world. They added a wall jump mechanic and an upgrade system way more intuitive than the first one was. But anyway, once I got there to Seattle, I got on the tram and got to my hotel, did some sightseeing. Of course, the first place I stopped was a little retro gaming store called Pink Gorilla. It was a pretty great and also pretty small store in the heart of Chinatown. But they were actually going to be at PAX, so they didn't have all their inventory there at the shop. But they did have one of my favorite games. After that, I did some sightseeing. Finally, the big day approached. Day 1 of PAX is finally here. And it was packed to the gills with people. There was hardly any room, and the lines were insane to see anything. It was insane. But I did manage to get to see some games on day 1. First place I stopped, of course, was the Pink Gorilla booth. I had to look at what they actually had. And look, they even had one of my other favorite games. Then I went over to the Sony booth, and everything was insanely packed, except one game, Dreams. So I gave it a shot. The idea is there when it comes to Dreams, and it's cool, but it just lacks the fun aspect. The idea of the game is that it's a Mario Maker type game in a 3D space. So you create games and music all inside of the well-constructed game itself, which is really cool, but every game I played, made by both the developers and fan creations, just weren't that fun to play. And also, most of them were really janky. Who knows, maybe in time there will be some cool stuff in it, but at this moment, I'm not that impressed. Which is unfortunate because Media Molecule, the guys who created Dreams, have made some really great games in the past, like Little Big Planet and Tearaway. So after that, I made my way over to the Mega Indie booth and got to see a bunch of really cool games. First game I saw was a little game called Cat Lady. It's a neat little top-down action shooter game where you're just a cat lady and you shoot and kill things, I guess. It's got a really cool negative color scheme, nice kind of Game Boy look to it. I'll definitely keep my eyes on it, but from what I saw, I don't know. I still need to see more. Haven is it's like a Journey-esque type adventure game. It's about a couple making their way through a world after escaping a lost planet. I really love the art of the game. It's really pretty looking. And the idea of a game being about an already established couple is just really interesting and not something you see a lot in storytelling. Superliminal was definitely one of the highlights of the Super Indie booth, at least for me. It's a very strange kind of puzzle game, all about abusing perspective. So looking at an object changes the perspective, making either the object bigger or smaller, and then when you click on it in that perspective, it changes the size of it, basically. So then you use those objects to get through different challenge rooms. It's really cool, and I can't wait to play more of it. I will definitely be buying that. After the indie booth, We went over to the Supergiant Games booth, the guys who made Bastion, Transistor, Pyre, to check out their new game, Hades, which is actually currently in early access. This game is a lot like Transistor as far as gameplay goes, except it seems like they got rid of the slowdown mechanic, so it's a lot faster and a lot of different kind of attacks in it. The music is on point as always, as far as I can tell. But the thing about it is like I just want to wait until it's out of early access, because I don't want to play an unfinished game by these guys. I really just want to play the polished game. So once it's out of early access, I'll definitely be picking that one up. I also saw Monster Hunter. What the hell is this? So then it was time for some board games and Magic the Gathering. They had an entire hotel dedicated to Magic the Gathering and board games. A couple of my friends were with me, and they were just in Magic nerd heaven. It was really cool, really cool. We ended the night by somehow squeezing our way into a cyberpunk cosplay party. It was at this little tiny bar, and the creator of Cyberpunk was there, and he was judging the cosplays. When we walked in, we got 3 free drink tickets. They were showing off like different art and stuff from the game. They had people walking around with trays of pizza. It was really awesome. And I did all of this just in day 1. Day 2. On the second day, we decided to go straight upstairs where all the indies were and not even bother with all the long lines downstairs. And we saw a ton of indie games. The first thing I saw and had to check out immediately because I'm a massive fan of the original was Windjammers 2. If you've played Windjammers before, it's the same kind of game. It seems pretty much exactly the same, just with a fresh coat of paint on it. But if you're unaware of Windjammers, it's an intense frisbee game meets ping pong with superpowers. As you get better at the game, it becomes increasingly more fast. It's a game that's incredibly easy to pick up and immensely satisfying to master. It's really, really, really fun. Foregone is a beautifully designed and smooth Dead Cells clone. I hate to put it like that because from what I played, it's really fun, but it does feel like Dead Cells, although the stages seem to be set up much more like a Metroidvania type game, so they're putting their own spin on it, and it seems really, really cool. Untitled Goose Game seemed to be a crowd favorite at the convention this year. It's exactly what you think it is. You're a goose who's trying to have a silly goose time. There are different stages with different objectives to be as annoying of a goose as possible. I actually thoroughly enjoyed the simplicity of it. Well, in actuality, the level design is actually surprisingly complex. It's almost a stealth game, but you're a goose trying to disturb a groundskeeper. It's really, really cute. Phantom Brigade was one of my favorite games that I actually got to play at PAX, honestly. I talked with one of the devs, and he said it's really early in development, and it was more of a proof of concept, but God, what a proof of concept it was. So basically, it's a turn-based and real-time game all at the same time, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but the way it works is you get to see an enemy unit's moves along with your moves. So you get to really think about how your moves are going to affect the other person's moves. It's a really clever idea, and I will support this game through and through until it's actually released. I'm really excited to play it. At the end of night 2, we walked over to the main theater where Darren Korb, composer of Supergiant Games music, and Ashley Barrett, the vocalist for the songs in those games, as well as a small orchestra, got to perform. Honestly, this was worth the price of admission alone. Okay, so the third day we spent looking at a ton of other indies. And then the fourth day we saw all the big boys. So let me tell you about a few more indies, and then I'll get into those big boys and my thoughts on those. Um, Deceive Inc. is a multiplayer spy game, I think. It's kind of like Trouble in Terrorist Town, but everyone is the terrorist. So the goal is to blend in with all the NPCs that maintain the living space, so to speak, and collect as much info on a target you're supposed to steal until a timer runs out, and then you have to go steal the target. All while not trying to get killed by everyone else trying to do the same exact thing. It's definitely not a perfect game yet, but the concept is so interesting I had to give it a shout out. Wave Break is a skateboarding game, but you're a boat that can shoot things. Really, the best way to describe it is it's a Tony Hawk game, but boats. You grind on rails, do tricks, and shoot opponents. It's worth checking out. I wasn't madly in love with it, but it was a good time. Brigade Killers, I think it's called Brigade Killers, is an isometric action game. I hear there is a pretty intense story intertwined in it, but to me it made me think of Rampage on steroids in an isometric view. You have lasers and rockets and you destroy everything in sight. Buildings, people, it gives you different targets to take out all throughout, but really as you're going along you just destroy everything. I really love the colors, the design, everything about the game was really just fun and stupid, and I really loved it. I can't wait to get to play it for a longer period of time. Alright, so now the time has come. Let's talk about those big boys. We finally managed to sneak our way into the line for Borderlands, but we had to wait in line for 2 hours, which gave me a little bit more time to play SteamWorld Dig too, and I actually got to beat it. So the further I got in this game, the more I loved it. The world's world was so well designed, and the gameplay so much more intuitive than the first. There are challenge rooms all over the place that actually gave me some issues, but like in a good way. And with the new mechanic of the zipline and rocket shots, there were so many different challenges that could be put in your path. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with that game. But anyway, back to Borderlands. So to be honest, I've never been a huge fan of Borderlands. I've played them, but I always felt like the gunplay was decent at best, and the story was really just disguised with really bad humor, because there is no story. A lot of people disagree with me, but I gotta be honest, Borderlands 3 actually impressed me. The guns felt weightier, the gameplay flow felt really nice, the visuals were really impressive and colorful, but the thing that really blew me away was the sound design. The game sounds were beautiful, the impact of the bullets, the music, all the different sound effects, and the main boss used sound waves to attack you. It was truly incredible. Getting to play it really piqued my interest in it, and maybe I'll even pick it up now. So, a game that I was totally unsure of walking in the doors was Final Fantasy VII Remake, because we all know it's taken for goddamn ever to make, and it's made me really nervous. And like, why is it taking forever? Are they nervous about the game's design? Is the game not fun? But after getting to play it, it kind of changed my outlook on things. I had a surprising amount of fun with it. Visually, it looked really nice, although I did see some frames pop in and out. But you gotta remember, the game is still being worked on. The gameplay is where it really shines, though. One moment it's really strategic and slow, and you can really think about your moves and what potions and spells and attacks you're gonna do. Well, the next moment it's incredibly quick action, and you have to do this all while swapping between characters. It takes a few moments to really get a feel for it, but once you feel it out, you really feel it. It was really intense, especially when you get to the big spider boss at the end of the demo. It was really awesome, and honestly, I can't wait until it comes out. I'm actually geeking out about it right now as I speak. So after that, I made my way back to the Sony booth, and they had a tent set up over there with about 25-ish minutes of cutscenes and gameplay of Death Stranding, where you had to set up time to come back and see the game. So we set up our time and decided to roll around the Sony booth before we got back to see Death Stranding. While I was waiting to go check out Death Stranding, I got to check out Concrete Genie, which I didn't know much about before playing it at PAX, but it was really cool. Honestly, it was really cool. Visually stunning. The game is about painting the walls with creatures that come to life and making them enjoy their surroundings, all while avoiding a group of hoodlums who want to beat you up. Once you finish your paintings, you've created this beautiful piece of art on the walls, and it's really just kind of cool to get to look at the different art that you've created. I can imagine this game being really relaxing. I enjoyed playing it, but I really couldn't imagine paying $60 for it. But honestly, I'm not even sure if they'll charge $60 for it, so we'll see. After that, we made our way back to Death Stranding. We finally got to see it. I guess a lot of stuff got shown at Gamescom, but I hadn't seen it, so I'm not even sure if it's what I saw here or not, but I walked out with more questions than I did walking in, and it made me want even more. So here's kind of what I gathered. Norman Reedus, the main character, I don't know his name in the game, seems to use the baby as a way to detect demons throughout the world, and it seems like it's a post-apocalyptic world, but in a different sense than most post-apocalyptic worlds, not because of like nuclear radiation, but because there's demons everywhere. And he's the one who has to like transport different things to different cities. And it seems like different cities are not connected in the United Cities of America, whatever the hell that is. It seems like you're going to get connected to this baby, and it's going to be an emotional roller coaster. Honestly, I can make a whole video about this, but I'd really have to gather my thoughts because I have no idea, man. Anyway, at the very end of the day, we somehow managed to squeeze our way into the Nintendo line. The line for the Nintendo stuff was ridiculous the entire time. And this was literally at the end of the day, we just managed to squeeze in. So we got to play Zelda Link's Awakening and Luigi's Mansion 3. Unfortunately, we didn't get to play Pokemon though. But I imagine it's Pokemon. So I really enjoyed Zelda. The new, cute, updated art style from the original Game Boy game is really, really, really adorable. The characters almost look like little tiny toys walking around. Blocking things with your shield just felt satisfying, and attacking felt pretty good as well. It is unfortunate that you can't strafe with your shield out, but it's probably unnecessary, and even from what I saw in the demo, it seems like there's a lot to explore in the game and a ton going on. Luigi's Mansion 3, on the other hand, I'm not so hyped on. I've never really been a fan of that series to begin with. The character design is nice, and the world looks really cool, and I love all the little ghostly creatures, and there's a little boss that you get to fight at the end. I like the look of all of it, but the gameplay is just so clunky. The controls just don't feel good, and it's just not enjoyable to me in the slightest. I can understand why some people would enjoy it, but to me, it's just not really my cup of tea. So, after we played that, PAX was over, and all I can say is, wow, what a great trip.